Welcome back. Once again, today we're talking about neutral spaces that don't feel so neutral, which I kind of refer to now as the in-between. So moving forward, if you hear me reference the in-between, what that means is a mostly neutral space with pops of color that balance throughout the room. So you're not getting an all white or an all beige room per se, like it's a full neutral. It's a still sort of calming neutral space with a lot of interest. Not quite maximalist, but not minimalist, somewhere in between. So that's how we get that definition. So now that we understand each other, let's talk about the in-between in regards to this coffee table that I'm sitting on. And to start with, I have to tell you that it's not just one coffee table, it's two of the same. And I love them because they're very simple. Even a color-averse, super neutral seeking person would be okay with this very basic piece of furniture in their space because, well, it's a very light colored wood. It's a simple silhouette, but the interesting part about it is on the sides because it's an open rectangle in the middle, but it's got the angles turned in. So that kind of gives it a little bit more interest, like architectural interest for me. It's not just a plain rectangle. There is something special about it. But what I love about it is it's not that expensive. And if I had a larger space, I could certainly buy, two more and make a very, very long coffee table, which would be really cool. Because if you have a collection of books or knickknacks to display, bookshelves are not the only place to put them. Coffee tables are a perfect place because they're conversation starters. When people come over, they can see easily what you've got on this table. And if you do have interesting things, they're points of conversation for hours and hours. That's one thing to keep in mind. Your coffee tables could be points of conversation and fun during your get-togethers with friends or family. So let's talk about the in-between and how we applied it to this particular coffee table. So as I just mentioned, it's a very neutral, simple base, not, much to say about it. But what makes it special is the stuff that I've added. A, because it's personal to me, and B, because they are my knickknacks that I want to display, but they're full of color and textures, right? So the first thing I have on my table, and I will get up in a second and we'll give you a close-up tour, is this hippo. It's Jonathan Adler, and for whatever reason, everyone that comes over needs to touch his bum. They need to rub his bum like a Buddha belly. And I'm guilty of this. I have to come over here to touch his bum. So it's just kind of fun because he's kind of cool. I love the color and I love how he reflects light in different ways. Coming from these mushroom pods above, this golden yellow reflects in the golden yellow of the hippo. And I just find it really fascinating because it's multidimensional how the light bounces off of it. So that's first thing. The second thing, to my left, I bought this special Dali book. It's a collector's item. You got to open the box with white gloves and it's got very cool pictures in it. It's just a conversation piece because it's the scale of it is grand. And I have things that I've collected, like my friend Jay from Blue Egg Interiors, which we will tag in case you guys are in Miami and want to find a really cool place to collect vintage art and knickknacks. He's got a very amazing selection. I bought this old rosary from Jay's store. I don't know the history of it, but I thought it was a cool piece, so I brought it home with me. And now it just layers on my book, and I just kind of like it. I've got different candles because I loved the containers, the vessels of them. I have its partner over here. And then these little guys are kind of fun. I bought these recently. It's the Book of Answers and the Soul's Book of Answers by Carol Bolt, and they're interactive. So when people come over, you're supposed to think about a question, put your hand on it, stroke the spine, and then when you feel the time is right, you open and the answer comes to you. So it's just kind of a fun thing to do when friends and family are over for entertainment value. So always, think about things that are interactive on your coffee table. Now let's move on. Shall we? I always like an oversized candle. So I always have one of these and it smells good and it just gives me that warm glow. I always try to have some fresh flowers, although these are sort of on their way out, but I kind of like them this way. This is actually an ice bucket, but I like the metal and the raffia together. I like the shape of it. It's kind of cool. And then always have something that's functional as well on your coffee table. Of course, these are for drinks like coasters. And this tray is not your regular tray. It's a Pottery Barn Harry Potter tray, and it features the Marauders map in a gold metallic bottom. So I love that. It speaks to something that's close to my heart, which is Harry Potter. And over here, last but not least, I have this old box that came from my grandfather, but it's off of an old clipper ship from like the 1800s or 1700s. And so it's got its history. It's just kind of cool. It holds things that I want to hide. And then I sit it atop of this Poochie book because I love Pucci. I love the use of color, the funkiness of it, that 60s vibe. And I like that pop on my table. And so I feel like, you know, things are balanced. And again, talking about the in-between, it's a neutral base, but with a collection of items with different textures and colors and, you know, interactiveness and light bouncing things or metallic things, wooden things, brass things, even some marble over here in these little links. So when you are thinking about the in-between, just think about what kind of neutral base can I put up that is still interesting to me, not boring, that creates some warmth, but a good base for many other multifaceted elements that are going to be placed here. And I think you're just going to have a win-win of items and fascinating visual for your space. So let's dive a little bit deeper into the in-between. We're going to talk specifically about what's behind me and around me. I know we did another video on merging two houses into this one space. So if you haven't seen that, I encourage you to go watch it because it's really interesting for those people that are going through second marriages or just moving into their first relationship when you're merging houses, you know, how that could work out and what designer tips I gave. They're, I think, good to follow. So check that out if you can. And let's talk about what was considered for the wall behind me and the furniture around me, shall we? So these were all contenders for this back wall. I didn't want to frame all of the walls because it just didn't make sense to me with the items that I had. I could have, but I didn't want all of that texture. It wouldn't have bothered me, but this is just the look I was going for. So I only chose to accent the art behind the wall. So the first one here is Philip Jeffries Vinyl Shimmer Weave. It's got a little bit of a metallic thread running to it. It's a very, very small gingham, really pretty in an oatmeal color, but not exactly what I was going for. Second is called Enzo, and it's just a textured, I don't know, I want to say oatmeal heathered color, sort of striped texture. Again, really pretty, but I wanted something more textural. The third one is called Compass Weave. I've actually used this in another project in like a gray blue. I love it. It's very textured, almost like in a chevron-ish type of pattern, but I didn't choose it because I knew this guy was the right one. This one is called Malibu Knits, and as we live by the ocean, this reminded me of like fisherman's nets, just something related to fishing. I don't know why, I just felt like this is the right way to go, and it's highly textured but still neutral, and that adds a ton of warmth and interest to a room. Again, unless you really kind of go up to it, you can't really see, but you can tell something's going on from far away, and I love that. Next, we're going to move on to the fabrics, and I did reupholster the furniture that was here before that belonged to my husband because it was just more of a just white, not very interesting. So the first thing I decided to do was upholster the two chairs in front of me, and for this we went with Elko Plaid by Schumacher. Again, highly textured, not plaid exactly, but it's got different planes, like this little fringe is more raised up, and I love that because it does feel different to the touch. And lastly, on the bench behind me, we decided to go with Sarapo Rustic Weave, and this is also by Schumacher. And this reminded me of piano keys, and as the piano is in front of me in this very room, I felt it was appropriate for the ambiance. It just felt right to me. But when you look at these items together, they just feel like they belong together, all three of them. They're besties. I feel like this was a good way to add interest, not feel boring, also not overwhelm the space. Like I said, still continuing in this in-between thread that we're talking about, where there's a neutral backdrop, but there's this very bold art. There's neutral furniture, but it's got subtle patterns in it that still feel interesting. There's a neutral table, but again, the accessories make it interesting and make them pop, you know, not just the table's just sitting here on its own with nothing on it. It's just layers and layers of a neutral base with many other elements that make it feel special and curated. And that is the best in between. I would like to know from you, are you a maximalist, a minimalist, or an in-betweener like me? If you are, you gotta let me know. I'd love to see your photos or comments. If you have spaces to submit that you are struggling with, I'd love to help you with those as well. We now offer virtual design services if you're not in Miami, and if you are, you can definitely DM me and I'm happy to work on your project locally. But if you loved the content of this video or any other videos that you've watched on our channel, we would so appreciate if you like to subscribe to this channel, because it does help us make more interesting content for you to watch, and again, for us to keep creating. So thanks for joining me today, and I hope you enjoyed our time together.